Hey, before we get started, group participation time. What are we hearing? What are we seeing? What are we experiencing? We've had some interesting, fun things happen this week. A little roller coaster. And how are we doing?
Are we talking life or are we talking real estate?
Yes and yes.
Okay. Life has been a crazy mess for Leslie Porter. I mean, the market is down. No, my house is on the market. Nobody's looking. All that's negative, so we're not going to go there. But the reality is, it again makes you stop and think what's really important. And there's a lot of good happening. I'm going within. I'm looking at what God has for me next, and all is well. So there you go. Good. It'll be okay.
It will. I mean, there's another side to this coin, and we'll all see how it shakes out as we get there. And we'll talk a lot more about that today. That's kind of the intention when we talk about who moved our cheese on it. So what else are you experiencing? Because some of us are hearing yes, it's slow. Others are saying it's not, or they're seeing an uptick, or they're seeing more activity than they've had in the past. What's causing that? Anyone? So what's causing it?
Perception.
I think fear.
Fear. Yeah. So fear is causing some folks to either move fast or hold back. Yes. And we talked a little about that last week. What else? I'll take a look at the chat. We got some stuff coming on. Uncertainty. Christy says uncertainty. True. Yeah, there is uncertainty. So what we're going to discuss today a little bit more is how do we take this uncertain world and create certainty with it. I'm going to take a quick look at my calendar because the region asked me to actually teach a class on this again on the regional side next week. So I'll give you the exact info on that. We just booked that just a second ago. It's going to be Thursday at 12:30. I'll be teaching a class for the region on Zoom, so pay attention. I'll get the information out to y'all. And I'll push it out through the market centers. And yet, what they asked me to discuss was how are we walking our client through this?
Quick in the chat, can you mute Eddie?
Yes, we're getting a lot of background. I'll mute y'all. Let's see. I'll mute y'all, and then if you guys would like to participate, just unmute yourselves, come back in. So here's where we're at. You know, it's how do we walk our clients through this process? How do we wrap our arms around them? How do we give them certainty in an uncertain world? Is really part of this conversation and our opportunity. So that's going to be our conversation. That'll be our dialogue on Thursday at 12:30 with the region. Is what does that conversation look like? The reason why we're doing it and the reason why the region came to us is this is something that we did back in the short sale days, is educated folks through this process. And what we're finding is the same fear and the same uncertainty is actually showing up in today's world. And because of that, we actually get to pull back some of those skill sets and some of those conversations. Obviously, we're going to have it in a different format and a different tonality. However, that's going to be the key to how we build this out. There's a couple other things that happen, and my intention today is that what we do is we slow this conversation down and create some certainty for you, right? Because we as agents can also walk through this world in a little bit of uncertainty, and yet through the knowledge and giving them that knowledge, we also start to understand where we're at. So the moved my cheese conversation, let's just have some fun and start with who moved my cheese. First of all, if you've read the book, raise your hands. And if you're driving, don't take your hands off the wheel. Right? So what is who moved my cheese? What is the whole conversation? What is that whole short story really about when we talk about who moved my cheese? Adaptability, says Christy. Tammy says she read it a few years ago. things that we are not, that were, are not now not. Is that not the truth? And by the way, how fast did the cheese move in this one? Like in a snap, right? What once was is no longer. Here's the truth though. And this is the coolest part about that book, is it's not about that the cheese moved or that it was taken and it's gone. It's that the cheese moved and now it's our opportunity, our responsibility to go find where it went. And we get to make a choice in today's market. We get to make a choice of, are we going to go after it? Are we going to go look for it? Are we going to seek for that new market or those other opportunities? Or are we going to slow this conversation down, fall into fear, and get stuck in the mud, right? Because here's the other thing that happens with fear. In our world, it causes overwhelm. When we go into fear, we'll start to spin. Well, we could do this and we could do that, and I've got to do this. Before you know it, it causes overwhelm. And through that overwhelm, it will hold us back from actually moving forward or doing anything at all. So that's part of the dialogue, is how do we take ourselves one step out of that overwhelm so we can start to move forward again and start to have that conversation. All right, so you ready for this? Here's how this day is going to look for this next little half hour, 45 minutes, possibly an hour as we work through this. Is I'm going to share with you some ideas and some concepts. I'm going to ask for your participation again to help me build this out. And then I'm going to break you up into groups so that you all have the opportunity to continue to build on this list with a smaller group and talk about where with that list. So we're going to break this down a little bit and put you into smaller groups through the course of the day. Don't run away. It's not scary. It's fun technology, and we're going to enjoy it. You ready? So let me pull up my screen. I'm going to share with you another whiteboard because Jake likes to draw. And here we go. Here we go. All right. So here's our whiteboard, Jake's fancy whiteboard. If you've got a piece of paper in front of you, turn it landscape, so it's wide, not tall. So make it landscape. And what I'm going to ask you to do is follow along with me. And we're going to draw a line right down the middle of the page. Now, here's what we know. Just within the last 24 hours, based on the numbers we pulled, 404 sellers put their house on the market. How many? 404. So if 404 sellers put their house on the market, what do we know we still have even in the market today?
Low inventory.
We have low inventory, and we're starting to see more and more sellers. So we still have sellers, people that want to sell in this market, yes? Well, here's the fun part. Guess what else happened? In the last 24 hours, there were 156 buyers. 156 people went under contract in the same 24 hours. So we also know we have more, we know we have buyers involved in the same dialogue, right? So let me type that one there. We've got buyers in the same market. And I'll spell it properly. My kids make fun of me because I know how to spell. So if we got buyers and we got sellers, we had 181 closed transactions in the last 24 hours. Now, for every closed transaction, that means we had a buyer and a seller. So as you put those two together, and you've got the buyers and the sellers, 181. What's 181 times 2? That's 362. If you add that 362 to the 404 for the listings, and then you add that to 156 for the under contracts, we had a total of 923 sides that were represented over the course of the last 24 hours. Almost 1,000 sides were done in the last 24 hours in Denver. So I'm going to take this off share for just a second because I want to ask a question. If we had almost 1,000 sides done in the last 24 hours, how many did we get? How many did you get? One. I see one. Gwen's got one up. I know that Marcia had one. She shot off a text earlier. Rhonda's got one up, right? Here's the question. We have a moment right now to go get our own fair share. Lindsay put 2 in there. Christy's got 1. So we're doing business. What I want you to understand is we can have this conversation. We can look at it and say, okay, business is going away. And yet, is that our mindset, or is that what's really happening in the market? And sometimes the best part about this is what we know about fear is stimulated by the emotion behind the energy. Fear, and typically our first response to any change is an emotional response. So when you look at our first response being an emotional response, and fear is one of those emotional responses, one of the easiest and fastest ways for us to snap out of that emotional response is to go to the facts. And this is why I've asked the market centers, this is why I've asked your leadership every morning, as crazy as this sounds, to push out what happened in the last 24 hours. Because I want to bust the myth that nothing's being done. There's a ton being done. And we can live in that fear and create that story, or we have an opportunity to take that and back it up and go, time out. The market is working. Something is happening. Sellers are selling and buyers are buying. And people are finding a way to make that happen and make that marriage work. So now the question is, if that is happening even in today, when I'm sitting in my basement all day with bright lights and my kids think I'm a YouTube star, what really do we need to do now to put ourselves in the middle of that transaction? Because it's no longer about going out and knocking doors. It's no longer about having these great events for our sphere. In today's world where we can't have more than like 5 people together, I guess I get to kick 2 of my kids out, which is awesome because there's 7 of us in the house. Does that really mean I get to move 2 out? I'm pitching a tent for them. So if we're limited in what we can do as far as how we get together, what's the story we get to create, right? And we get to pick how we respond. Do we respond emotionally, or do we go to the facts, not the facts tell the story for us? This is why we're drawing this picture today, because what I'd like you to understand as we share this out again is when we look at this whiteboard and we got sellers on one side, we got buyers on the other. Here's what I want you to think about. If there's sellers and if there's buyers, oh, I crossed it out. Let's erase that. If there's sellers and if there's buyers, whoop, then where do we find these buyers and these sellers? That's going to be the question. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do as we think about this as a whole, and I'll change the font on that. See what happens when you leave me by myself. It gets crazy. So if we got sellers and we got buyers, here's what I'd like you to do. Think about this for a second, and I'm going to ask you to take yourselves off mute, just if you're in a quiet spot, and help us through this conversation. Where are we finding sellers? Where are the sellers at? Who is selling in today's market? Found it. All right. So who's selling in today's market? Oh, hold on, Rhonda. Go for it.
People who are retiring and they've already made those retirement plans.
Okay, so retirees, right? People who are already have that plan in place. Now, here's the interesting piece. Retirees, do they have a little concern right now with what's happened in the stock market?
Yes.
So what's happened, and we had a handful of these that were looking to move into that, their final awesome house, that called us up this week and said, hey, we're thinking about waiting. And as we asked, okay, well, what's changed? We already know the answer, right? They said the stock market has fallen and it's taken almost a quarter of what we had in it this week. Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're worried about being able to make that mortgage payment on that new house for the next umpteen years until they're done, because their cash reserves have been dropped. So here's, again, we got opportunity We've got to help them find a solution because they can also show up as buyers on the other side, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what happens. We have access through our lenders to this wonderful thing called a reverse mortgage. And you can do a reverse mortgage through a purchase. And what most of these folks weren't thinking about was if they could do a reverse mortgage through a purchase, not have a $2,000 a month payment because you wouldn't have a payment for the rest of your life, they could actually still fulfill this goal. Now, I don't know the details on that. Talk to your lenders who do those. They can help you out with that. However, here's what I do know. If I just saved you $2,000 a month in expenses, how much did they need to have in their 401k to create that $2,000 a month to cover the mortgage payment at a 5% return? The same $400,000 they just lost. So all we did was said, hey, FYI, keep your money there, keep doing what you're planning, and just use this tool to continue to make this happen if you want to do it. Let's get you educated. Does that make sense? So part of our job today, more than ever, is to be an advocate and to be an educator.
And Jake,
Yes.
can you hear me, Jake?
I got you, yeah.
And to tag along with what you're talking about, typically people that are retiring are moving to a place where the cost of living expenses are lower. So if they stay, they're still going to be having the cost of living that we have here. Whereas if they did what you were saying with the reverse mortgage, they can go ahead and move to somewhere where the cost of living is less in addition to saving.
Exactly. So they can create that win-win by moving to a place where the cost of living may be less and not have a mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's awesome. So retirees are one of our sellers. Who else is selling? If we look at who has to sell today, who would it be?
People with job changes.
Yeah, there you go. Job changes or transfers, right? What else?
People who are moving up or
Uh-huh.
who have lost their job and need to move down.
There we go. Moving up, potential job loss. What else?
And honestly, I think people are still the pool of sellers is still the same. They just might be in a position where they want to wait a few weeks just to see how things shake out.
Brian Davis, you are brilliant.
Where is Ryan? Yeah.
Ryan's out of the Park Meadows office, and it's true. Here's the thing. He was the top individual producer out of the Park Meadows office, top 10 in the state for Keller Williams, FYI. So that's who you got to hear from when Ryan pipes in. And yet, he's right. It's the same pool. They just may be waiting. However, we do have folks today that may say, you know what, instead of waiting for 60 days to see how this all pans out, let's move forward. And you're looking at moving up, you're looking at job loss, you're looking at people. Why would moving up work? Because I just got off the phone with my lender. I'm getting quoted a 3 5/8 rate to refinance onto a 30-year fixed and do some other stuff. Hello? Why wouldn't you move up with a rate that low? And by the way, the government is artificially keeping those rates incredibly low right now to stimulate the economy and to keep this moving. Who knows what's going to happen in 6 or 12 or 18 months? So again, it's all that conversation. So who else? We got retirees, job transfers, moving up, job loss. Oh, got you, Miss Anna. There's a lot of background noise on you. Oh, still missing. Let's check the chat real quick. Yep, you must be 62 for the reverse mortgage piece, so know that piece. Let's see. There's a bad joke in the chat. Now I got to look. People who had job changes due to the virus, true statement.
People having babies that outgrown.
Babies, right? Family growth. Marriage, right?
Divorce.
1031
Divorce could be big.
Divorce is another one. 1031 exchange. So investors.
Empty nesters.
Empty nesters. I can type as fast as you guys are saying all this. Empty nesters. What else? I promise I can type.
I've got a few flippers that they're already in process.
Flips in process. Right? So flips.
People that have already sold their place and are maybe living temporarily,
Yep. So people who are currently looking, people who have currently sold. Here's the other piece. Sellers, though, we've got investors right now that are selling. Why are the investors selling right now?
Because they're stirred.
So hot.
Because
they're paying mortgages on properties.
Right? Because they're paying mortgages. Okay, let me tell you, investor, 47 doors right here. You know what my dad and I's biggest concern right now is?
And your tenants pay their rent.
Am I going to get my tenants to pay their rent on April 1st or not? And if not, how do I cover my $17,000 a month nut in mortgage payments on my 47 doors? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the truth. We believe that they will. We've been staying in communication with them and keeping it together. However, it's there. It's reality. Investors, we got several investors that are saying, hey, I think we're at the top, so I'm going to take my money right now, sell,
Leverage.
and then wait for 30 to 60 days, see what happens, and come back into this market and leverage it at a different side. I mean, it's all coming together in a crazy way. What are you starting to see, by the way, as we roll through this list?
Activity is still happening.
Oh, there's a ton of activity.
Jake?
And yes. Who was that?
Ryan.
Was that Ryan? I got you, Ryan. Let's see if I can unmute you. Maybe. Nope. You're on permanent mute.
I think it was me.
There you go. Is that Ricky?
Yeah, my internet's being unstable at the moment, though.
I told somebody this morning that the only reason my internet gets unstable is because I play it with Fortnite, because my kids all play it. It's also how I do PE, as I watch them fight over Fortnite. So there's a ton of opportunity. And I'm going to stop here on this list because there's a lot more we can go down. And let's switch the conversation. Let's go to the buyers. So if we got sellers, who are our buyers today?
Could be people in industries that are actually doing better now than they were before.
So industries that are doing better.
Jake, I would say our buyers are literally anyone who's able and ready to buy and take advantage of the market.
Yep. So anyone who is willing and able to buy in today's market, so which is true, who would that be that would be willing and able to buy in today's market?
People who are looking for new builds.
New builds. You put a great post out, Ryan, by the way, on that.
Thank you.
Can you share what you posted in the Park Meadows group? Because that's a great idea.
So we've got a lot of people looking at new builds right now, and they are considered an essential service because of residential, business construction, or home construction. So most of the sales associates, as well as the construction superintendents, have letters from their legal departments proving their essential service. New builds also offer products that are part of an essential service, so anybody that wants to come visit their on-site communities are allowed to do so. It won't be in trouble under this order. So we can set that fear aside and bring our buyers to an appointment at a new building.
How about that one? And by the way, if we find a new build that's got existing inventory, you can still dovetail that, move it together pretty quick without having to wait for that process to be built, that property to be built.
And those new builds that are in inventory, most of the builders are on site offering pretty good incentives and willing to put in any offers on the table. We've got one right now going at 10% under list price.
Yeah, the Lennar and Sterling Ranch, we're working with them with one of our clients, and they are telling us that they're really willing to be more flexible than they have in the past.
So we got buyers for new construction. Who else would be a buyer in today's market?
Jake, can you hear me?
I gotcha.
I just have had a closing like a week ago with a neighbor who's buying a property, a rental property for her daughter and son-in-law who are moving from California because they want to leave that hot state right now.
Oh, yes.
And they just want to come out to Colorado.
So investors.
Relocations.
And there you go. Relocation. Investors, relocation. What else?
Jake, it's a lot of the same list as the sellers.
Isn't that funny? The same list as the sellers when you really look at it. Folks who may be facing a potential job loss, so they want to downsize the mortgage. Folks who are looking to move up, right?
Hey, Jake. First-time home buyers.
First-time home buyers, especially today with a first-time home buyer.
Healthcare workers too.
Healthcare workers.
Yeah, I have two of those.
It just goes back to the same principle that the market doesn't have any different buyers or sellers in it. They just have changed maybe their timing or the protocol of how they're going about it.
Yeah.
So we adapt to that.
Again, go back to Who Moved My Cheese, right? They may not be in the same spot. Where we were going before to find these people, we may not be able to find them today because they've hunkered down. However, what we are finding out is there's a lot of opportunity. Now we just have to figure out where we go to intercept it, right? Our job at the end of the day as agents is to provide a great service, a great value, educate our clients, be the consultant, not the salesperson, just be a consultant, especially today. And yet the flip side to all of that is as we do that, what happens is we start to build out this relationship. I was coaching an agent today. She's one of the bold coaches that I coach who also runs a real estate team. And I realized her head wasn't in a great space, and it was because of this. So I took her down this same conversation we're having today. And then I asked her, I said, where's the first place you could go? Who could you call right now to go get listings in bulk? Not one, not two, in bulk. And she went, I've got an appointment this afternoon with my financial planner. He also works with people who have portfolios. I'm going to talk to him and see if we can't put together something where we go in and we look at people's real estate portfolios, do an assessment, and if they're in a point right now where they want to sell due to the market or due to the scare, we can help them through that and teach them how to maximize it.
Hey, Jake, Jake, quick comment. You know, this out of all times is one of the very, very best times in each and every listing appointment to ask, is this the only property that that you need my services on?
Yes.
This is game time for that. If you're not asking that, then someone else is.
100%. And that becomes the fun part is as you look at it, here's the other thing. You walk in and you give great counsel. So the conversation I'm going to teach you all on Thursday with the region is a conversation about how to have this dialogue to bring clarity, to pull our clients and our sphere out of fear and really put them in control. They may not be our next seller or our next buyer. They know them. So if we can help them walk out of the fear of all of this that's going on and start to regain control in their world, then we get to ask the question, well, who else do you know that could benefit from this same dialogue and this same conversation? And what we've started to do as a team is we've started to do this in groups just like this. And we've got people coming every week to these types of meetups so that we can educate them through this process, or they're inviting their friends and we're now blowing our sphere up because of the referrals that are coming in, right? Last week, I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 properties we listed, and every single one of them went under contract. I think we only had 1 showing. 5 properties, 1 showing, all of them under contract, almost $4 million. It can be done. What we're doing can be done in today's market. Here's the other cool part. What we're learning about this is we can be so much more efficient than we were ever working before. And that's the other opportunity is what can we now do if we take this efficiency and this level of efficiency to this next market after all this clears up? I mean,
Jake?
Don't get me wrong. I'm not a huge fan of working in my basement. However, I'm a huge fan of this.
Jake?
Ricky?
I think there's a huge opportunity for business right now, probably better than ever for talking to for sale by owners. Because people need professional support, and more reason ever that have fiduciaries and people that understand what's going on with COVID-19 and how it affects real estate.
Yep.
And I think it's a great opportunity to chat with every for sale by owner you can get a hold of and let them know, look, you need a professional.
Let's come back over here and put for sale by owners. Put expireds. By the way, those for sale by owners are also buyers, typically. Those expireds are also buyers, typically. I promise I can spell. So here's what we're going to do. This is a good list. It's a good start. There's probably more to this. What I'm going to take a moment and do, let me stop sharing the screen and I'll tell you what we're going to do. So there are currently 40-ish, 44 of us on the call today. I'm going to break us up into 4 groups. So in those 4 groups, here's what I'd like you to discuss. Where else are sellers and buyers? So where else can we find them? And then the other thing I'd like you to talk about is where can we put ourselves in their path? What can we do? What conversations could we create? Who could we be talking to that may be in dialogue with these types of folks? So that how do we start to get active today, knowing that this is what's going on, so that we can get our unfair share of today's market? Awesome. Mm-hmm. So what'll happen, I'll put you into groups. As I put you into groups, what's going to happen is it'll pop up a little join the group, hit the yes, and it'll pop you into your group. So here we go. We'll take about 10 minutes on this conversation. We'll come back at 2:42. So 2:42. Here we go.
Jake, did your kids overtake your room?
Not yet. They're upstairs screaming and yelling now. I know they're doing something.
Hey, Jake, I got kicked out of my group, not intentionally, but somehow it just popped over to this screen. I don't know what happened.
Oh, I probably ended it and then it
Oh,
popped.
maybe you did.
Instead of giving, yeah.
Oh,
Warning. Usually it'll give you a warning, so I'm sorry.
okay.
So give me some feedback. Is everybody's coming back? How was that? Diving into a smaller group, having an opportunity to have a conversation. What were your takeaways from the conversation? What were some of your ahas? You can put them in the chat group if you want to do that. I'll read through them, or you can just share.
Jake, I didn't think about all of the referral partners. Command does that referral thing where you can see where people are moving from your whatever states to your area, and building those referral partners and network right now would be amazing.
Yep. Referral partners through Command. Command will tell you what the top 10 cities are moving into Denver. It'll also tell you the top 10 cities that Denver moves to. So you can find out both outgoing and incoming to build those relationships. Great point. What else? People are truly working on getting innovative to keep in contact with clients using e-sources for business. 100%. You know, it's fun. You'll start to hear things when you ask your clients, hey, how are things going? Is there anything that you need? Anything I can do to help? One of the most common things we heard last week was, I've got to figure out how to get my kids off the screens. So one of the things we did, and for those of y'all who know Roxanne, she's the one that headed it up. She said, we're going to do a virtual dance party 3 times a week for families. Just picture that, by the way. And so we've been doing it. We've done it twice now. We've had some great attendance. The kids love it. The parents love it. They have fun. Rox gets to be a ham and have fun with it. It's great, right? Virtual coffees, virtual open houses. How do we show a property when we can't walk through it? It's real easy, actually. You get the seller on FaceTime, you get the agent on FaceTime, you get your client on FaceTime, and you all on FaceTime at the same time. So that way your client's protected, the seller's protected, and you walk through it. Or vice versa, your seller's protected and the buyer's protected because their agent's there. And then they go through it. And what's really ironic is because of the questions the buyer can ask directly to the seller that are within guidelines and bounds, right? I mean, obviously, if there's something that's not great, obviously we step in, support that, and clear that out. However, typically because of that, they get more information. They feel more comfortable about that purchase than if they were to walk through it on their own. What else?
I still really like the be a connector of people in your database. You know, the person that's homeschooled forever, matching them up with parents that are struggling, the teen parents together, they can mastermind together, the yoga studio instructor and all of the yogis out there that need someone to lead them. You know, I feel like it's a really good opportunity.
It's a way that we get to play connector at a high level. And as we start to connect our database with those pieces that they love or vice versa, it's good. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
We actually had,
go ahead, Britt.
I'm in a group chat with like 20 moms that actually live in a different neighborhood. But I was friends with one of them, and then I got put in this group chat, and just a text message group. And one of the moms in there is a nurse, and she's been talking about how, you know, the lack of masks that they all need. So we all started talking about, you know, finding patterns and who could make masks for the hospitals. And then we started talking to different hospitals, and I got in touch with one of the jails that you know, they've got the nurses in the prisons. And then we were able to actually get the prison and then a couple of different hospitals in touch with an actual mask supplier. And so they were able to, you know, we were able to make a bunch of masks and supply a bunch of masks. And I mean, meeting a bunch of new people, you know, whether it was over the phone or virtually, or, you know, in dropping those things off. And it was just a cool experience that everybody now, you know, affiliates. I don't know. We were all able to be a part of something that was great.
And when you're serving others, you forget about all the crazy.
Right.
And that's the other cool part about that. As you give, it helps you forget about the cuckoo that's going on in our world sometimes. A couple other ideas and a couple other things that we've done. We do a lot of buyer seminars as part of our process. Well, obviously that no longer is there. So we're moving that online. We do a lot of investor seminars. We have a 2-part investor series that we work with investors on. We're moving that online. This recession-proof your world conversation that we've been having with our database, we've blasted that out in an email. If they raise their hand, we set up a 30-minute cold consult. What we found is so many people were raising their hands. Now we started doing it in small groups. We started reaching out and saying, hey, why don't you invite a few friends? Let's do this together. And then they would invite their friends. It's just when you have access to knowledge and information that people are hungry for, they'll come to you for it. They just don't know that they can go to you for that information or that knowledge. And when they do, you become the resource. So what are your takeaways from today? As we kind of break this whole conversation down, we started talking about what is happening in our market, actuality in the last 24 hours. Keep an eye on that. It's amazing what's really showing up. Into where the business is and now how do we find it? What are you taking away?
I would say to keep talking to people and to keep connecting and do what we normally do and not let this time and everything that's going on define us. You know, do it in a way that is not selling, but helping, but still being engaged.
100%. This is an opportunity where we can sit in our house and actually make a lot of calls and make sure that we actually get heard because they actually are answering the phone. It's a brilliant, great spot. And express that you care. This isn't about, hey, do you know anybody who wants to buy or sell a house, or the old bold script of I'm in a contest, I need 10 to win. This is not that script today. Today is the script of what can I do? You know, what can I bring by? Is there anything that you need to, as far as support, things along those lines? How can we help you? And how can we best serve you? That's what it's about.
Something that Ed and Dar said in their seminar was to do 10-second videos to your client. And I immediately instituted that with a first-time home buyer. They're very young, not even 30. And FHA purchase, thought it might be some conditions, and there weren't. It was approved. And so I just did I thought it wasn't worthy of a text. And because he was traveling, I just did a quick video. Hey, I've got great news. And it was just, and they actually responded, we loved your video. And it was just quick FHA approval. So getting in front, phone call is great, it's your voice, but sometimes just seeing a face is, and that's from Ed and Dar. I didn't come up with it, but I got a great response.
Oh, boy. That's why this is such a great medium. We could do this on a conference call. However, I couldn't doodle on a conference call and you couldn't see it.
Well, one of the suggestions in our group was, I forget his name, with the hat. He suggested, because he likes to bowl and do that.
Ricky.
Do group Zooms, like happy hours and you know, break down your sphere. I like that.
Yeah, well, think about it. We're doing that same stuff with the offices and with the smaller groups and things like that. You know, the happy hour. I know that Highlands Ranch, you guys are doing coffee with your MCA, which I dropped in on yesterday and probably made a big mess of, and it was fun. And yet, right? Are we having fun, and are we creating this community through this network that we have, this opportunity? That's really what it's all about.
Speaking of having fun, I'd like to throw a challenge out to this whole group. I'm doing my first Facebook Live virtual open house tomorrow. And I'm not going to give the whole thing away, but I'm going to use movie lines. And I'll just throw one out there. So the living room is very spacious. And I'm just going to say blah, 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 and so much room for activities. So if you've seen Step Brothers, you know that's from that movie. My husband suggested this one at the end. If you like this home, get your offers in because they're going to be coming at you like spider monkeys. So I kind of want your ideas of what your favorite movie lines are and what you would like to see in my virtual open house. And I'm just wanting to engage more than here's the kitchen, blah, blah, boring.
That's awesome.
Well, we'll see if it's awesome. I'll probably just, you know what?
Hey, keep working on it because it sounds like it's fun. What else would you got?
Rhonda, anything from Princess Bride.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yes.
I was going to say Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber.
Already, thank you guys.
It's coming together.
Oh, you're saying that I've got a chance.
What?
Yep.
I missed it. What did he say? I was writing.
He said, so you're saying that I've got a chance.
Oh.
Oh,
I like it.
yeah. So enjoy it. Here's the thing. We're all new to this medium. Many of us are. Inconceivable. That was another one. We're all new to this medium, and yet have fun with it.
Yeah. Maybe I should just do
Crazy
the whole thing.
It's simple trial and error. You'll mess up here. You'll do some things there that are great. You'll learn from it, and off we go. Super cool. And yet, to get together and have a bunch of folks and have a little happy hour, do it. I think, Ryan, you did one with a bunch of guys the other night, I think.
Yep.
I've never seen more happy hours with realtors online since this all happened.
We're all over this. Yeah.
We're all dying being at home.
We're happy with
Social creatures.
I've got a happy hour coming up with my team here in about a half hour. So what are your final thoughts, final ahas, final questions as we wrap up today?
I just want to say, remember just give thought to the people in your sphere that are on their own. I have a lot of widows in my sphere and they are lonely, and just give thought to who might be out there and really needing a touch, and just give them a touch.
That is a great point, Leslie.
And also my space at the office, well, whenever I'm back there, it's a free zone. If anybody just needs to have a little hug or whatever, I'm around and I care about you guys.
It's awesome. That's the other thing I would say. You guys know people who run companies, people who are in leadership positions, reach out to them. A lot of times they carry a ton of weight in these moments as they're fighting to keep everybody else paid, and they don't get a whole lot of that gratitude rolling back up. So if you have folks like that in your sphere and in your group, reach out to them, say hello, give them a hug. There's stuff available through the SBA that's come out as well, so you can make that happen. Virtual hugs, as Mo did the other day. We can
where you hug yourself.
Hug here, and then you turn to the left and you do another virtual hug there, and then you turn to the right and you do another virtual hug there, and then you do, right?
You got to make sure you follow it through and hug yourself, though.
Oh yeah, you got to follow through and hug yourself. That's right. Can't forget that.
Yep.
Yeah, this isolation is hard for people who are huggers.
My wife uses it as a reason not to touch me. She's happy about it.
Right.
Whatever. Hey guys, I want to jump in when we were talking about checking in on people, like especially older people that are stuck in whatever. Take them magazines, take them puzzle books. I'm doing that with a dear friend of ours that's in assisted living, and she's falling over herself every time. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So do that, like puzzle books. There's cute adult coloring books. You can buy cheap colored pencils, and so those are the kinds of things those people appreciate because they have nothing else to do.
True statement. True statement. This is our opportunity to take care of others in a huge, huge way. And I promise you that it will give back in ways you never anticipated, ever.
Yeah.
Game on. Make it great, y'all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Go knock out this weekend.
Thanks, Jake.
You're welcome. See y'all.
Thank you.